Hi, Tatum.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm so well, thank you. How are you?
That is really, really good to hear because we've already done part one, which was episode 87. I've now released 108. I can't remember when we actually recorded it. I think it's September, somewhere around that.
It was still quite hot outside.
Yeah. Now, there are 3 people in this room. One of us has run 100 kilometres since we all saw each other last.
Yeah.
And it's not me, and it's not our wonderful technician over there. So what the hell have you been doing?
So, yeah, I mean, it was actually 106.7 kilometres in the end. So the race distance is meant to be, it was the Tarawera Ultra Trail, and I did the T102, which is meant to be 102 kilometres. In the end, because it's not like a straight distance, and obviously you're at aid stations crossing backwards and forwards and you don't run a straight line, I ended up doing 106.7 kilometers, which really threw me off towards the end because you keep on looking at your watch going, oh God, I know that I'm must be close to the end. I'm at 99, and then you're not. You're much further away.
So it's 102, but you did 106.7, so an extra 4.7.
Yeah.
Can I ask a really stupid question?
Sure.
How did you wrong turn or different direction, or they lied to you, or what?
I think that I think it's quite difficult to judge the exact distances when you're running that far. Like the margin for error increases. But also the aid stations that you go through are not small. So if I'm crossing from like maybe a bathroom to get water, to go and pick up something, to go back, obviously like 100 meters every now and then is going to increase. And then obviously when you're running in a line, you don't run in a straight line necessarily. You're running around other people, or you're taking a path that's slightly less steep or something like that. But also we'll get into it. There was a lot where we ended up tracking backwards against our will.
Okay, because we're going to get to this. Okay,
yeah.
But because I do so for context, I'm super fascinated about this, and it's because I've never been a runner. When I say I've never been a runner, I have never been able to do it, whether it's physically, mentally, too chubby as a kid, never got bored very, very quickly with it, stuff like this. It's just never, but it's always been something I've always thought of as like, the peak of human condition is to be able to just run, or people that do triathletes and triathlons who are triathletes and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So 100 kilometers. So a marathon is 42 kilometers.
42.2.
42.2.
Yeah.
So you're around the, sort of 2.2 marathons roughly.
Yeah.
Right. So my first question is that, to sound stupid, why? Why pick something like this?
I think it's quite difficult. I mean, I really love the routine. So for anyone who hasn't listened to the last podcast, I have an influencer marketing agency here that I run. And we launched that last February. So we've just passed our year anniversary. And obviously in the launch year of launching a new agency in a new territory, you're pretty busy all of the time. Having a routine outside of my working hours was incredibly important to me, and being obviously training for something like that. I trained for 7 months solid to be able to run an ultramarathon. So having that outside of work was really, really important to give me structure and something that I enjoyed doing that was part of a plan, that kind of like held me accountable to keeping fit fed back into me actually being able to run the agency well and keep myself fit and healthy and mentally alert. And I think that's kind of why I ended up taking it up, and decided that there was a goal that felt so unachievable because I haven't ran all my life. I've gone through peaks and troughs of being super fit and then pretty unhealthy and then very, very fit again and trying to run and then kind of siding more with strength. And really last summer was where I started to pick up this plan. With my running club, Uncommon Club, they were all planning to do this race in New Zealand in February. And they said that I could do it. I was originally going to do 50 kilometers, then upped it to 100 because there's lots of different races that you can do on the trail.
Have you ever run a marathon? Had you ever run a normal marathon before?
I hadn't run a full marathon distance in one go. As part of my training, I ran Abu Dhabi Marathon in December for this, which actually went relatively well. I did injure myself. I dislocated my hip 27 kilometers in and then finished it with a dislocated hip. So I didn't get quite the time that I wanted to. But I think it's it's like this mental resilience thing, and I know that we'll get into what it sort of like feels like and what do I feel is the difference in between before doing an ultra and what I felt like after doing an ultra, because it's quite different. But that mental resilience is super important, and I like doing hard things. So
this is the thing, because I want to kind of break it down genuinely for my own benefit. Sometimes I do these and it's like I'm trying to have a conversation people can watch and maybe get something from.
Yeah.
Other times I'm like, this is just for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is very much for me, which is, so on the day that you decided, right, I'm going to do 100, right? If you had started to run that day, how far would you have got? How fit were you when you decided to do it?
Oh man, probably like 12 kilometers.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, not far.
So why I just want to, like, why go from 50 to why 100? Like, what was, because it's one of these things where it's like, if you're going to do 12, a normal marathon, the average person might have thought, okay, that's super challenging. Do you know what I mean?
And it is.
Why did you set the bar so high?
Because I was training for 50 for like maybe 3-4 weeks. And I thought, if I'm going to fly 17 hours to the other side of the planet, if I'm going to train for 7 months, I need to be doing something where I'm so scared that I'm not going to be able to do it, that I continue training as hard as I did.
Yeah, okay.
Because if it was 50, I would have been like, oh, well, you know, I was able to run 50 kilometers over the space of a week. Fine, I'm pretty sure that I could do it. Oh, I did a marathon. Okay, I'm just going to like give up my training a bit after I did the marathon. Because between 42 and 50 is not a massive difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wanted to be so scared of my goal that I had no other choice, because not doing it at the time wasn't even an option. Like I just had to do it. So I had to plan and structure everything so well that I knew I gave myself the best chance. And to be honest, it was probably only maybe like an hour before we started where it kind of dawned on me what we were doing. And I was sitting next to my friend Safe on the bus going to where the start line was in the dark, wearing like all of our gear. And I was like, I don't know if we can actually do this. And he was like, I don't know if we can either. It was like, it's a bit late now.
No, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the reel or the video you put out on the day of you doing it in the morning. And I do have a couple of questions about that. But so tell me about the training then. Like, how do you train? Because you can't just go and run marathons every day. Like, how does the training actually work to build up to something like this?
So strength is super important. You do a lot of like runner strength to be able to condition your muscles, to be able to work for that long. Because initially when I was training for it, I was expecting to run for something like 18 hours. I thought it was going to take 18 hours. There were lots of reasons why it didn't take 18 hours. For context, it took 22 hours and 39 minutes. So strength is super important. Doing speed work is super important, not because you want to run fast. In fact, the goal is basically to run as slow as you can if you're not a professional athlete. I just wanted to finish it. That was my goal. And that just basically enables you to have better control of how your body transfers your oxygen around your body as well, and what your endurance is like. Doing long runs was super important, and because we did it on a trail, obviously it wasn't flat, so having my body become very aware of what it felt like to run up and down mountains constantly was super important too. So, you know, when we were training, our training took us every Saturday morning, depending on how hot it was. You know, I would sometimes wake up at 1:30 in the morning to drive out to Ras Al Khaimah or to Malayha and Sharjah to go and run out there for anywhere between 3 and 7 hours on a Saturday morning. So And then you do recovery runs after that. So, I mean, I was running 5-6 times a week and then doing 3 strength sessions a week and then also doing mobility as well. It's also super important to make sure that you're recovering, but it's hard to recover when you're training every day. So having like contrast therapy, so like ice baths and saunas, super important. Also physios, sports therapists, like massage therapists as well, nutrition. So like everything encompassed is what you like, everything encompasses itself in order to make you successful. I'm not saying that you need to have a private chef, but it helps to have a nutritionist to, if you're focused on other stuff during like a 9
And you
to
had a
5.
nutritionist?
Well, I had like my nutrition sorted. So I had a
Yeah.
really good meal plan that I stuck to. And also the problem is that you need to eat so many carbohydrates around when you're doing long runs as well. And I eat a pretty much non-processed diet, like 95% non-processed as well. So, or very low processed. So making sure that all of my food and everything was sorted was a load off of my mind so that I was able to just go to my training.
What was your diet consisting of?
Just lots of carbohydrates. So a lot of rice, bread. I tend to not really eat pasta, but rice was my predominant source of carbohydrates, and then vegetables and lean protein. Really. I mean, and it sounds quite boring. I like that. I really enjoy eating
No, I hear you on
non-processed
that.
food.
Yeah, there is something to be said about clean food.
Yeah.
It's actually there's actually more comfort in clean food than there is in the comfort food that people think. You can go and eat some terrible food, pizza, burger, etc., thinking it's comfort food, and feel 10 times shittier afterwards if you actually eat something clean.
Yeah, although it is really funny because when you, like, ultra runners are notorious for eating absurd food, especially when you're actually doing an endurance race. So the main food that we ate at our aid stations was white bread, peanut butter sandwiches, jam sandwiches, pretzels. I did not side for this, but some of my friends ate mashed potato in a bag. So like you keep mashed potato in Ziploc bags and then you just like scoop it into your mouth while you're running because it's a great source of carbohydrates.
It's all fuel, yeah.
Yeah. Everything is fuel in the end. And obviously we have gels and they're probably the most processed thing that I have a lot of during training, like carbohydrate gels and like carbohydrate bars and things like that.
And were there any cheat days? Were there any days where you just said, I need something?
I think the thing is that when you eat non-processed and you enjoy doing it, you don't feel like you need, like if I really, really wanted something, I would have it like straight away because I'm not going to stop myself and then think about it all the time and then eat things around what's similar to that and then end up eating the bad thing anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not, I mean, listen, sometimes I would go over my calories, fine, but otherwise I'm pretty structured. But because I don't dream of eating McDonald's or KFC or anything like that.
So you didn't have that thing where suddenly you're on this diet and you're like,
no,
I'm craving,
Yeah.
You're just very happy to be in the space.
Because I definitely put on a little bit of weight when I was training for the ultra because it's very, like, as I got very close to the ultra, because it's difficult to eat as many carbs as you need to be able to actually fulfill those big runs without eating a larger amount of calories as well. And just general like inflammation. Your body's not meant to go through that much intensive training for such a long time. But yeah, I wasn't trying to lose any weight. I was just trying to eat for performance. And that's quite a nice thing. You don't feel like you're missing out because you're doing something just like specifically for you. You're not trying to see a result other than just make sure that your body's healthy and able to.
How was it impacting work?
Endure.
Like,
Positively.
Did it sort of start off like, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm working all the time. And then the closer you get, did you start to think, well, actually, I need to sort of focus on, because of this horrific deadline that's on the horizon?
No, I think that for me, one of the issues that I've always had is that I feel incredibly guilty when I'm not focusing on my job and on my work. And the only time that I didn't feel guilty was when I was training because I knew that I was doing something that would positively benefit my life and allow me to work better. I didn't take any time off in the year that I started the company. I mean, I literally worked every single day, every weekend, every day. So I was able to take like a couple of days off while I was traveling to New Zealand. So that was really nice to do. Didn't mean that I wasn't thinking about work, but amazingly, actually, when I ran was the first time, it's honestly probably in like my adult life where I haven't looked at my phone for 23 hours, which was wild.
You had a good reason for it.
I did, but it was, so this is something that's so interesting about, and I spoke about this with a friend yesterday. It's also the only time that you don't have any concept of time and you don't abide by what like modern day society thinks time is, because you have a watch, you have a Garmin on, and the Garmin is not telling you what the time of day is. It tells you what the distance is that you're at, what your heart rate is, and how long it's been. So you forget, you don't think about what time of day it is, or how, you only just think about how light it is or how dark it is, and that's it. So there were times, I think we had 2 times while we were running the entire race where someone checked what time it was on their watch or on their phone or something because they were taking a photo. And I think that we thought it was about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I looked up and I said to my two friends that I was running with, I was like, I feel like it's getting dark. And my friend went, no, because it's going to get dark at like 8:46 tonight. And we looked and it was like 8:30 p.m. and it was about to get dark. And we thought it was 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which was wild. It's really, really crazy. But it was nice because you had to be so present with what you were doing because you had no idea what was happening around you. There's so much to think about while you're doing it as well. Like, you know, how does my body feel? Am I dry enough? Like, do I need to worry about if I need to change my clothes in the next aid station? Am I forming like blisters anywhere? You know, am I fueling adequately? Do I have enough sodium in me? Like, do I need to take more electrolytes? You're constantly thinking about like how, like you're looking at a watch every 20 minutes. Okay, I need to take more, like another gel, or every hour. Okay, I need to take more electrolytes. Have I got enough water in my bottles? So you're only thinking about what's happening right this second.
And did you plan for that sort of thing here? Was that part of the training?
Yeah.
Even though you were running maybe a much shorter distance, you were factoring in the cycle. Do you know what I mean? Like the habits.
The most important things when we were training in the mountains every weekend was making sure that we were adequately understanding exactly what our body needed for certain outputs of energy, how much energy we had to put in to feel good, how much water we had to be taking in, how much water we had to be carrying in order to be able to get through a certain distance. So with an ultramarathon, you don't necessarily run the whole thing. You're actually, all of the wise people who are very, very good ultra athletes will always say, walk the hills in the beginning that you would walk towards the end, because you don't want to wear yourself out so drastically at the beginning that you literally can't finish it, because it is a long distance. You can feel amazing for 60 kilometers and then feel absolutely awful after that because you've pushed far too hard. So sometimes it's like holding back, but you have to be so aware of what your body needs and what your body is getting rid of in that time. I would say the only thing that I didn't factor in is obviously when we're training, we wear vests and we have our water on us. So I always opt, instead of having what they call as a bladder in the back of your bag, which usually has like 1.5 liters of water, I carry bottles in the front because I find it easier to be able to balance. My back doesn't hurt as much when I'm running usually. But the thing I didn't factor in is with an ultra marathon, you need to have a lot of mandatory gear with you dependent on how far you're running and where you're running. So we needed to have 2 head torches, a battery pack for our phone, like a wool long sleeve hydrophobic top to run in, hydrophobic trousers, a waterproof jacket, obviously all of your gels for whatever you need. So you have roughly an aid station every 10 to 15 kilometers. And then out of probably I think it was 3 or 4 aid stations where you're able to drop off a bag the day before. And in those bags, you can basically replenish what you have, just not get rid of any of your mandatory gear. So all the mandatory gear in your rucksack, you're meant to either be wearing or carrying throughout the entire distance. So
I think that my kind of last question kind of pre-race, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is when you decided to do this, did you sit down and actually research what's going to happen to you first, or did you go, okay, this is just a very, very long marathon, and then as the early days and weeks went on, and you started to grow more into the process, it started to go, okay, at kilometer 70, your body could shut down. You know what I mean? Your water's going to do that. Like you said, your electrolytes are going to do this. And did you suddenly become more and more aware, and maybe, I'd say a really good word, intimidated. Did you become more intimidated about the whole thing as it went on, or did you actually really know what you were getting yourself into from day one?
I think that knowledge is power, and there are so many, like, trail running and endurance running is becoming one of the biggest versions of running sports that are trendy at the moment. There are so many amazing, well-known ultra athletes, and therefore, in the modern age of social media, there's so much information online that you can get in terms of like people's YouTube videos that they've recorded from previous races. Even the race that I did, I could follow other people's videos that they'd done in the past 5 years to see how they had approached it, where they felt they were breaking down what they needed their crew to be able to provide for them. I also have so many friends who have done this type of thing before. So it was less so looking up generalized advice online, and more so just speaking to all of my friends, and they'd be really candid. You know, they'd be like, you're going to potentially have stomach problems after you've been running for 15 hours on gel, so you need to make sure that you're cycling solid food earlier, and you need to make sure that you're carrying this with you, or like, this is how you stop your feet from hurting, or, you know, this is where you should change from shorts to leggings because like your legs are going to chafe or anything like that.
Was there a lot of contradiction, or was it all quite on the nose? Because a lot of people can say,
pretty similar.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone's is pretty similar. I think obviously people prefer fueling with different things and they react to certain stuff better. For me, I drink so much caffeine day to day that I can take one caffeine gel in every 4 normal gels that I take. So I mean, I can have a lot of caffeine. It doesn't affect me. Some people are like, that's absolutely insane. I would have a heart attack. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm fine.
How old are you?
32.
Yeah, you're all right with tons of caffeine.
Yeah. I survive on
Give
it
15 years. You know what I mean?
They actually served coffee, and I feel like it saved me from sort of kilometers 70 until the end. They served coffee at the aid stations, and thank God they did.
It's just when you say kilometer 70 until the end, I'm like, so, okay, the race itself, the actual, so the kind of like, let's just call it the day that you wake up and you're going to the airport to go to New Zealand. It's like, just quickly, were you like, right, finally, great, it's here? Or you like, shit, I actually have to go do this now?
No, I was really, really excited. We did some traveling around Auckland before in order to sort of like acclimatize. Then we all drove down. We all met in Auckland, and then we all drove down to Rotorua, which is where the race was. So it was nice. We had like some time to be able to chill out before and get excited together. But it was everyone that I trained with. Like 18 of us went from Dubai to go and run either 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, or 160 kilometers. So there were different races that people were doing.
Sorry, it's 160. I was like, okay, we'll just park that.
But
park that for next year.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I already know. Sometimes on this, you ask questions you already know the answer to. So I already know what you're going to answer when that question comes up. Yeah,
I'm running 164 kilometers in Thailand in December. I've got 2 marathons before that. One's next month. But yeah, so traveling out there, it was great. So the weather was pretty good when we were in Auckland, and then when we actually traveled down to Rotorua was when the weather started getting bad. And if we start like looking into what happened in the lead up to the race, which
go there. Like, we're here now. Like,
cool. All right.
Over to you. Do you know what I mean?
I was checked in, so I was staying by myself in a motel there. I went to bed at like 7 p.m. I packed all of my stuff the day before. Like, it was 12 hours of packing all of my drop bags, dropping them off, having all my mandatory gear checked to make sure that I was able to run the race, everything. There's a lot of rigmarole that comes before it in order to be able to actually be able to pass the start line. And then I go to bed at 7 p.m. It's raining, pouring outside. Great. And we get an emergency alert on our phone that cuts through my do not disturb and says, there is severe flooding, pack your bags. There's potentially going to be an evacuation. So I'm like, this is like 8 p.m. or something. I've been asleep for an hour, taken all my like sleeping cocktail to be able to sleep and wake up at 3 o'clock the next morning.
So this is the night before the race?
This is the night before the race.
Okay.
Then I look, race is still on. Great. Go back to sleep. 10:30, another alert. Like, there is severe flooding. Please make sure that you are ready to evacuate. And I was like, okay, but surely the race is off. Like, what a shame, but also fine. Yeah. Like, I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'm not running the next day. Wake up 3 a.m., check my phone, everything's still going ahead. It's not raining outside. And I'm like, okay, perfect. So that must have been somewhere further away. Maybe I just got the wrong alert. So we all meet up at the race village. We get on the buses.
See, sorry, you'd only slept... Because one of my questions for you was...
Not well.
Yeah. How did you sleep the night before? Because, you know, I think everyone would think, okay, I need to get a really good night's sleep the night before because I'm going to do this thing. But then there's a lot of sports people that can't sleep. And we all know as human beings, the night before something super important, you want to go to sleep, but your mindset is, okay, it's like, I need to go to sleep. 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 I'm not going to sleep. How do you know? And you end up not sleeping.
Yeah.
And so you barely slept.
And we all spoke about it before as well, because it's a very natural thing, as you've said, before a big race to not sleep properly. So all of us spoke about the fact that, like, if that happens, your body adrenaline will carry you through the race. You're prepared. Your body is prepared for the endurance of it. We've done enough training, etc.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But it did mean that all of my stats were off. My heart rate was unbelievably high from when I started, and it basically felt like I'd done no training. So that was cool. Like, my HRV at the moment is probably the fittest that I've ever, sort of the fittest that I've ever been. My HRV is 197 at the moment. It was 70 at the race. My heart rate was usually, doing the pace that I was used to doing, would sit somewhere around 139. I was sitting at 179.
An HRV, for people that don't know what that is, like me,
heart rate variation. So it's the space in between. It's the variation of time in between your heartbeats. Theoretically, it's a very personal number, but the higher that it is, the fitter you are. But if someone constantly has a HRV of 70 and they're really fit and healthy, that could mean that's their number. For me, my number is just super high, and it's usually really, really high when I'm much fitter. But it's how I judge my recovery. So if I know that it's low, I can always tell that I've slept really badly the night before, or I've eaten really badly the day before, or I've ran a marathon the day before. My HRV is going to be through the floor. Like, for instance, when I finished the ultra for 3-4 weeks afterwards, my HRV was around 20. Like, straight after.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
So we're on the bus going to the race village. Everyone's fine. We start, and I mean, like, the ground's not super wet. It was all okay. But what happened was, because as I said, there were 4 different races, but 3 main races. The people who were running 160 kilometers started even further out, and we all finished at the same finish line. Mm-hmm. So 160 started first, 100 started second, and 50 started third. So the 50s, but obviously because of the distance and the time that it took to get there, the ground that the 50s had ran on, the 100s were then running on that ground 50 kilometers into where they were. And then the 160s had run 60 kilometers of their own ground, and then the 100-kilometer ground for 50 kilometers, and then the 50 and the 100-kilometer runners ground for the last 50. So bearing in mind, it was pouring with rain, and we were running through muddy trail ground. It's not like rocks, which I'm used to here. Running in the mountains, it's all rocky and sandy and dry and dusty. I hadn't done enough like mud training, basically, because we just don't have it in the UAE. And yeah, it became very apparent. The first 40 kilometers was great. There were 5 of us who started together.
The first marathon.
Yeah, the first marathon.
That was great.
It was great. It was raining. It started raining about 30 kilometers in, like, relatively heavily, and we were soaking wet. But when we got to sort of 40 kilometers, we were looking and we were like, okay, yeah, we've done really good time here. I think we'd managed to do it in like 5.5 hours or 6 hours or something. We were like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's impressive.
We're probably gonna maybe 6.5 hours, but we were like, judging we weren't running fast and we were running uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill. We were like, okay, we could do this in 15 hours. Amazing. We're going to be done within an hour of it getting dark. that's perfect. We don't even need to worry about running in the dark. Because in my training as well, unless I was training like on the beach or whatever, or just doing normal road running, I hadn't done a trail run where I'd gone from light into dark. I'd only gone from dark in the morning into light, like into later morning. And that mentally is quite a big thing. I didn't realize the like change of like the time of day is quite a daunting thing. You know, you get like sundowning, where you get like more nervous and conscious of what's happening when you go from light to dark, as opposed
the lights
to the
are
other way
about to
around.
go out.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's definitely an opportunity to panic. And so 40 kilometers in, things start to get really quite bad. We went to our first aid station. We just ran next to a river while it was raining really super heavily, and the river was about to burst its bank, and everyone was taking photos, and I was like, guys, I think we actually need to like get out of here. This is not good.
Yeah.
This is getting quite scary. And then we got to the first aid station, and I had spare clothes in the first aid station, and because it was raining, everyone's bags were soaking wet and they hadn't kept them dry. So all of our clothes, we were drenched, like waterlogged from head to toe. Then all of our stuff was soaking wet. So we changed into more wet clothes. So at that point, like, you're quite cold because you're not running super quickly.
Yeah.
And that...
And wet clothes are heavy.
Wet clothes are heavy. Wet shoes are really heavy. I didn't realize quite how heavy wet shoes were.
And so the fact they hadn't kept them dry, was that there's literally nothing they could have done? Or...
No,
you're just like, as you approached, you kind of went, come on. Like,
I'm sure that there was something that could have been done, but also it was the worst weather that they've ever had. They've had a cyclone during the race before and the weather wasn't as bad. And it was also worth caveating the highest number of DNFs, so did not finish, in any of the races that they've done.
How quickly were people dropping out? I mean, you must have been quite broken up. Do you actually know?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, there was an aid station at 74 kilometers.
Yeah.
And we had been through a tough time. And they actually had buses of people that they were taking away, because it was the first time where we got somewhere where there was a road. Okay. We weren't just in the middle of a forest. And therefore, it was the first place that they could actually take people away. And there were like buses full of people in like who had hypothermia, like were not well, like in space blankets next to like heaters, just like completely dead behind the eyes, blue. And I was like, that is not. Well,
I did a bit of research as I said to you outside. I typed into Gemini what happens to the human body if they run a 100-kilometer ultra marathon. One of the things that came up was kilometers 70.
Yeah.
After that, you know, your body starts to suffer posture and fatigues real bad, and you slouch and everything like that. So
it's so for us. So there was a very steep ascent in between, somewhere around like 41 to 57. They had another aid station where you could change your stuff again straight after that, which was it was weird because it was only like 15 kilometers away from each other. Luckily, I planned really, really well all of my drop bags. I had new shoes in most of them. I had new clothes in most of them. I put a new first aid kit in every single one. I had new food in all of them. Like, I put protein powders in some of them because your body needs protein. Like, you forget, you can't just live on carbohydrates for 22 hours if you're constantly breaking down muscles, which is what you're doing if you're running for that distance. So I had protein powders. So like I planned everything pretty well. It was just like the elements that were the thing I had absolutely no control over. So then we leave an aid station and we're about to go into kilometer 60 and we're going up another ascent. And that was probably the first time where I was a bit like, I'm starting to not feel great. And
how steep was the ascent? In that, I don't know how you would answer that.
I don't really. The distances. So the total elevation that I did was about 3,200 across the whole thing.
Okay.
And then in terms of what's probably easier is to talk about the length of time that you're going on a very steep ascent.
Perfect.
And that's probably like, you know, anywhere in between 700 meters probably at a time to sort of 4 kilometers, you know. It's really dependent on how steep the ascent is. There were a few ascents that we did that were 500, 700 meters where it had got to the point where the ground was so disintegrated that we were, obviously you have sticks when you're doing long distances, you were pulling yourself up with the sticks, but you would slide down when you got to the top of them, which is also probably why my distance was so much higher, because I was having to reclimb hills constantly. And can I tell you that when you're doing that in the dark, in the pouring rain, and your body's not working anymore, is one of the hardest things ever, because in between these 10 to 15 kilometer aid stations, you're being led into forest. Like, when I say that it was muddy, it was liquid mud up to our knees. So you're wading through mud. So after 60 kilometers, we weren't running. We were dragging ourselves through mud. Like,
how frequent were marshals? Like,
only at aid stations.
And so what just to get some context, sort of, what's the average distance between an aid station? I know you said there was one where it was quite short, which is 15 kilometers.
Aid stations is, so normal aid stations between 10 and 15 kilometers each. And then there were 4 main aid stations where you had drop bags that you pre-packed. It was either 3 or 4 of them. I honestly can't remember now.
18, 20 kilometers between each one, roughly.
Between every one, some of them were main aid stations. So you had like 10 or 11 in total across, or like 9 in total across the whole race. And then one would be a small one, another small one, then one where you had your drop bag, then another 10 kilometers with a small one, another small one, another small one, then where you had a drop bag.
Because I'm trying to gauge, like, and you said there was 18 of you. Did you stay as a unit, or did everyone, like, so I'm trying to gauge isolation, basically.
So there were 5 of us who did the 100K together.
Okay.
3 of us stayed together, thank God, for probably 89% of the race. So like roughly around like 90 and a bit kilometers, which was very, very important. It was funny because at the beginning we all said to each other, like, you know, it'd be great to start together, but we were going to break up and I kind of want to do this race on my own. And because we were all doing it for different reasons. And none of us are particularly sane, I would say. And it's quite apparent about like that now after finishing it. But we ended up all sticking together, and we needed each other so much, because when stuff got really hard, between 3 of us who were running it constantly together or doing it constantly together, one person would have a horrible time, and the 2 other people would be there to kind of support, and we'd all take it in turns. And believe me, there was like 2 hours where I was bawling my eyes out.
So this is what I kind of wanted to sort of move into, which was, okay, what was happening to you mentally? Because just so I could sort of put it into a frame, which is like, you are now on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
In a storm, in rain. So I'm going to overplay. So it's like pretty isolated with a couple of other people.
But rain, I'm talking about like torrential 4 hours of
New
rain.
Zealand rain, like, which for those that don't know, that's like New Zealand and the UK.
It's like being in a shower. It's like standing in a cold shower.
New Zealand and the UK are very on par, where it freaking rains. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it rains for long periods of time, pretty heavy.
Yeah.
You know? So it's at night, knee deep in sludge,
yeah.
in an ultra marathon, 20 kilometers, or let's be generous, let's say 15 kilometers between aid stations.
Yeah.
Seeing a face that looks like they're supposed to be in control. That's what I say about marshals, where you can do these things, and then once you actually, and you can get into all types of different headspaces, and then you actually look and you see a marshal, and you go, okay, something's in control here. Do you know what I mean?
No, there was none of that. It just didn't feel that way.
Yeah. So like what? Like, genuinely, just tell me about like the darkest freaking moments here. Do you know what I mean? Like, where did your head go?
Yeah.
In all of this.
So you hallucinate.
Yeah.
And it's really normal to hallucinate when you're exerting yourself that much. When you are in your head for a lot of it, you're doing something that's incredibly difficult. Your brain starts, like how when people are lost in the desert, they see a mirage and like it's their brain trying to tell them that like there's something to keep on going for. You know, you see exit signs in a pitch black forest, like ahead of you, and you're like, and in your head, you don't question why that's there. You know, one of my friends saw an octopus in a puddle and was like poking it with a stick, and we were like, "You cool?" And they were like, "Yep, fine." I saw some pretty horrendous things.
Say it.
I thought I saw people hanging from the trees.
Really?
In the dark. I think there was basically a point where I'd kind of like broken up from other people because I was ascending slower than them, but I knew that we'd all catch each other up at some point in the next aid station. So I was like, you guys go. And it had started pouring with rain, and I kind of got caught in like a landslide coming down the side of a mountain.
And you're all alone.
And I'm alone, and all of the floor is disintegrating underneath you, and there's literally rivers of water pouring down a mountain. So it's not like, can I keep myself dry? It's like, can I keep myself standing up? You're just walking in whatever the route of the water is going down, because it's forged like a bit of a path for you. So you're walking down running water, but like a river of running water, not like a street, like pouring while it's raining and it's getting dark. And you're soaking wet, and you have no control over anything. And then I ended up my feet were soaking wet, and I knew that in about 10 kilometers I had dry shoes in another aid station. And I caught up with my friends at the bottom of it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you guys, but I'm going to run through this mud. I'm going to get to the next aid station. I'm going to try and get warm. I'm going to change my shoes. I'll meet you guys there. Not realizing that the next 10 kilometers was going to take me 4 hours to get through because the ground was just non-existent. It's not, and just
10 kilometers is a long way.
Yeah, but
you say it like, I get it in the context of the distance, but it's a long freaking way.
10 kilometers usually takes me an hour if I'm running like a comfortable speed. So it should not take 4 hours. So and it's not just that you're running in mud, it's slippery. So you're trying not to fall over because you don't want to be covered head to toe in mud or injure yourself. Like, you need to consider that, like you said, your posture goes, you have more chance of injury. You don't want to have to stop because you've pulled your back or whatever. Or you twist your ankle because you're not holding yourself properly, or you try and run, you're running lazily because you're tired. So therefore, like, something ends up happening. And so I run ahead. It gets very, very dark, and I suddenly become very aware of the fact that I'm in the middle of a forest, miles away from anyone.
Yeah.
And like no civilization. I've got a head torch on. It's pouring with rain, and I'm completely by myself. And like, if I cover my head torch, because I've got a sensor one, so I can turn it off and turn it on by putting my hand in front of it. And I turn it off, and I'm in pitch black. So I turn it back on, and I'm like, someone could come and murder me here. Someone could literally come and murder me here, and no one would know. Because, like I said, you've got time in between each aid station. The only way that you can see someone else is if they pass you, or you go back, or you go forward. So there were times where it got really, really late, and, you know, we were talking like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'd been led into a forest for 4 hours to come out of a muddy forest to an aid station, and then see that they were leading us back into a forest, and we knew that we had another 4 hours of it as we were going back in. And it was like to the point where I'd be like, I can't do this. And my two friends would be like, no, we are doing it. So like, let's do it. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And then I just like cry for an hour, just like pull myself through and go. But yeah, where it was like, that was like the longest period of time was probably somewhere around like 11 p.m. where I was alone, and I was like literally walking, and I was like praying to God, and I was like, please, I was like, I'm sorry, I've put myself in this situation. I probably shouldn't have done this. Like, please look down on me, keep me safe. I beg you. I'm very, very aware. Like, became super aware. Then started like seeing dead people hanging in the forest that weren't there. To caveat, they weren't there. It was up here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And so saw snakes and stuff like that, but that was like that weren't there. But in my head, I saw like hanging anacondas and stuff like that. And yeah, so then my friend ran up behind me, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad it's you." And I was like I'm literally like mid prayer, like very, 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 very scared. Suddenly realised that I'm very, very close to. I did want to ask you how scared were you?
Like,
it was when it got dark, and I suddenly realised that like no one, like it was down to me to be able to save myself in this type of situation. And it sounds very dramatic, but like it really feels, because you have no awareness of what's happening around you other than what's physically happening right that second to you. You're not thinking about anyone else. You're not like thinking. You're just focusing on keeping yourself alive and moving. And I was like, just became very, very frightened. As I said, was praying, and then my friend Sufyan came, like, ran up behind me, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that I ran into you." He was like, "I've left safe. He's coming. We'll meet him at the next aid station." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you." And then we all ended up meeting, like 4 or 5 of us ended up meeting. 4 of us ended up meeting at the next aid station around 75 kilometers. And it was so funny because there was a moment where Safe then caught up with us, again, pouring with rain. By that point, all of my clothes were wet underneath. I've put my like dry jacket on top of my wet clothes. And Safe and I like standing looking next to each other. And we both go at the exact same time, after not saying a single thing for about 10 minutes, go, I don't think I hate myself enough to keep on doing this. Word for word, just looking at each other in the eyes. And we both look at each other and we're like, that's weird. But also I don't think I want to keep on going. And I was like, I don't think I do either. And then we just kind of did. We got to 84 kilometers and I really, really thought that I was gonna stop. And then one of my friends, I was like, I just don't think that I have anything to prove to myself anymore. Like, I've got this far. I don't think I want to keep on putting my body through this. I'm starting to really hurt. I'm in pain. It's not that I'm tired. It's not that mentally I can't do it. My body hurts and I care about myself. And then he was like, okay, well, we'll get to the next aid station. We'll keep on going. Ended up going, at this point, barely can move because my back is locked because I've been pulling myself up mountains on sticks and I'm not used to putting that much load on my back. I've also got a semi-heavy rucksack, of all of my stuff that's now soaking wet as well. I'm not eating anymore because it's so wet and I'm so muddy that I can't take all my gels out and I'm just so done by that point. And the worst part, and so I almost quit at 97, just before 97 kilometers. And the reason for that was not the pain of my back, was not that I was tired or anything. And anyone who's really squeamish or any prospective husbands that might be listening to this can fast forward for about 30 seconds. But I basically jumped as much as you can at that point, jumped over a log. And because our feet had been soaking wet for 22 hours, and in Gore-Tex shoes, so they keep all the water in, and you're wearing wool socks on wet feet full of water and full of mud by this, just completely full of mud. And you've got trench foot, right? So your skin is just like tissue paper. Yeah. And I've jumped over a log and the bottom of my foot has split open in between where my toes connect to the ball of my foot. I've just jumped and I've just felt it just rip. And I was like, cool. So there's now loads of mud in a giant open wound in my foot. And I'm stuck on the top of a mountain. And I've still got another, because I knew that even though my watch was saying that I was at 99 kilometers, I knew the next aid station was only 97 and I still had to do a descent and then find the aid station and then keep on going. So I was like, I don't know how much longer I've got. Basically, I've got no idea. And I was like, I'm actually going to have to quit at the next aid station because I don't think that I can feasibly walk, and nor should I do that because I've got mud in an open wound in my foot. But I kept on going, so that was cool.
Wow. I'm just like, because I don't think people, unless you've actually been in it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, this is not a comparison at all, but
no, compare.
I was snowboarding once and we decided to go off-piste because my friend was like, yo, let's go off-piste. The way that
you were your friend, right? You were the one that
No, it wasn't. I can't name him, but he knows who it is if he watches this. Right. It was a long time ago, but we weren't very good. And he went, let's go off-piste, right? And the way the mountains looked, it looked like you would go down there and you'd make it back down to so off we go, like this. And then he's 50 meters in front of us and he falls over and he just starts screaming, stop. And he shouts up, it's a ravine. It's a drop off of a cliff. And he nearly skied off the end of a cliff like this. And then we stopped. And as we sat down, because we stopped, and anyone that's been skiing or something knows this, we suddenly went down to just sort of in between the waist and the knees in snow.
Yeah.
And you then suddenly turn around and you're like, we're going to have to get back up there. Mm. And the only thing to do was then took our snowboards off, stood up, and we're up to our waist. And I remember what reminded me of this when you said you're putting your poles in and you're just dragging yourself. You're putting the board in and you're pulling it, but it's just coming back to you. Anyway,
yeah.
The thing was it's that moment where you realise that you are now at the mercy of the elements.
Yep.
And
you're the one that's in control of keeping yourself safe.
No one can see you. No one can hear you.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? I was 50 meters away from friend A, right next to friend B, and we were both, then it's just silence.
Yeah.
And then you're just doing it.
We did a lot of silence.
And the clouds were coming in and it was getting darker. And the point is, and again, us to get out lasted an hour, not 22. I'm not trying to make any comparison.
No, but it's scary. It feels like it lasts forever.
It was just the thing that I was absolutely in a state of panic about what the fuck? Like, you felt so alone.
Yeah.
You felt that you can't move. You know, your mind makes the equation.
Yeah.
No one's coming.
Yeah.
Like, it's me. I've got to get myself out of this.
And you're like, why have I done this? Like, I actually quite like my life. Like, this is really dangerous.
And I think it's one of these moments in life, and I suppose maybe anybody that's, I don't know, been stuck out on a raft or something like that, is you just think, if I'm not really, really careful here, I could be in proper trouble.
I need to lock in at this point.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, that thing in your head, you must have gone through that for hours.
Yeah.
You know, of just...
I mean, that's the thing. It's like being present is super important. But, you know, if your mind started to wonder even for a second... what's going to happen in the next 10 kilometers, what's going to happen next, like how do I feel good enough to be able to get there, I kept on, like, my head kept on going there, and then I was like, nope, right now is all that matters. So many things could change. The weather changed in between the beginning to 40 kilometers. My body changed so much in terms of how I was able to walk and how I was able to climb, and like my mental state changed, my body temperature changed, like everything changed so much during that time that it was like, you just have to focus on what's right now, and whatever happens. And that's basically it. Like, you don't have any control over that situation. Okay.
So how were the last 2 kilometers? Was it a situation where you thought to yourself, I should be done by now? Yeah. And then you realize it's another 500 meters or another 500, and you're just getting more and more and more pissed off? Or was it just euphoria because every step you were like, I'm going to do this?
No,
do you know what I mean?
My foot was just absolutely just so bad. My body was so bad. I'd luckily changed into a brand new pair of carbon plated trail shoes. Amazing. Best ever. Nike.
Carbon plated.
Yeah, they are carbon. No, but they're great because it was the thing that I needed in order to feel some sort of difference in between because the last bit was flat. It was on ground. They led us through sulfur fields, so it stank great. But also then they were like leading us back through roads, doing road running in order to get to where the finish line was, which was in the race village, which was in the middle of the village that we were in. So you were running on roads for the last bit, which meant that you were just doing lots of turns. So you couldn't see a finish line. You just had to keep on. It was like arrow this way, arrow that way. And I was like, I am in hell. Like, I am in hell. This is it. I've died on the mountain.
You're thinking the finish line's coming around the corner, but it's just another arrow.
Yeah, just another arrow. And because at that point my watch wasn't tracking properly because I'd done additional distance. So I was like, I could be anywhere. Like, I've just got no idea. And I walked across that finish line. I did not run. We had to run through more mud for the last 200 meters before we got to the finish line. And at that point I was like,
did you just think, no, okay, come on, someone's having a laugh?
Yeah, I was like, I'm so annoyed at this point.
So when you cross the line like that,
I looked so angry crossing the line as well.
Like, what happened in your mind?
Nothing, because I was so...
Did you just collapse?
No, I got my medal. Like, my friends had finished like 5 minutes before me, 7 minutes or 10 minutes before me. They were sitting down. It was 5:30 in the morning. We were soaking wet, super tired. Just went home.
So there was no like, it was just shock.
I think that we were also shocked. And one of the things which I was having a conversation with my coach because I had to take 3 weeks off of running when I finished it in order to let my nervous system heal, because nervous systems are really a thing. I learned that because mine was like obliterated. And I was speaking to him and he was saying, what's one word that you would associate with you doing that ultra? Or like, what did you feel when you crossed? And I was like, I honestly haven't thought about it, but if I think about it now, disappointed. And I think it's because I felt like I deserved a different race from the race that I got because we trained so hard. Mm-hmm. But also one of the interesting things is when you do, for me and with my group of friends, we all do stuff like this. So, and we do lots of races and we do lots of running, and it's, it's like, oh, you're running ultra, cool, like amazing, that's so good. But like everyone else has done it. But when you tell people, they'd be like, oh, amazing, you're going to run 100K. So everyone congratulates you for the 3 months leading up to it when you haven't even run it. And then you have a bad race because of the weather, and then you and your body and everything. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, right, okay, so I've just put my body through something horrendous. I feel terrible. I've got the endorphins from people. I've had the endorphins for 3 months before of people saying to me, well done. I'm like, I haven't even run it yet. And I'm like, thanks so much. And then like you run the race and they were like, okay, well, I'm done now. So like, cool. The issue is I hadn't planned what the next step was going to be. And I always need something to be able to spur me forward. And I realized that feeling felt so much like grief because I'd reached this point and I'd already been congratulated. I had no endorphins waiting for me at that point. I didn't feel like I'd succeeded at anything because everyone had already told me I'd done a great job. And also it didn't feel the way that I wanted it to. So I got to the end and I was like, where is the good feeling? Like, where's this amazing...
Was there ever a good feeling? Did it come a couple of weeks later where it dawned on you that not only had you done this ultra, you'd actually done it in conditions that make it almost like an ultra?
Yeah, for the first 2 weeks, I was actually like, I'd actually sort of told myself that I was unhappy that I'd finished it because of how bad my body was responding afterwards. I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Like I said while I was doing it, like I care about who I am. I don't hate myself enough to do something like this. But after 2 weeks, I started to feel a lot better about it. Enough so that when I was on my flight back from New Zealand, so like maybe like 4 or 5 days after the race, I booked Copenhagen Marathon, which I'm running on the 10th of May. So didn't really give myself enough time to be worried about it. And then when I had something else to look forward to, I was okay. I was like, okay, so I finished this now. Now it's about recovering well and being able to train to do a faster marathon. And then I booked Chicago Marathon, and that's in October. And then I was like, what else can I do? And so then I'm doing Thailand as well.
So do you think that there's a possibility that you'll run maybe Copenhagen and the conditions will be great and you'll find it relatively easy in comparison to that?
Yeah.
And then it might actually make you realise what an achievement that actually was.
Maybe. Or maybe I'll never want to run again.
Because when you're just in it, like you said, when you're in something like that, you ain't got a choice. It's just like you said, one foot in front of the other until it's over. Yeah,
I think it's... I'm excited to hopefully have a good race. I think that I'm in good enough condition to be able to have a good race. I don't think I'm going to do it as fast as I would like to, but it will be better than the marathon that I did where I dislocated my hip 2/3 of the way in, and it will be better than the ultra marathon that I did where I felt like I was going to die the entire time. And
I was about to say, first one is hip dislocation, second one is Mother Nature. I'm like, are you sure?
What else? It's going to be like Godzilla.
Heat wave.
Godzilla in the middle of Copenhagen. I wouldn't put it past.
Impromptu heat wave where suddenly there's no water. I can do heat.
To be fair, I'm really excited about running in the cold. I think that will be amazing because it's going to be like 16 degrees or something, so that'll be beautiful.
So I'm going to make a statement. I guarantee you're going to come back and go, you're going to it was the coldest one. It dropped to -25.
Oh, I'd be fine with that as long as it doesn't rain. As long as it doesn't rain, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm happy with that. That's all good. But no, listen, I'm really, really happy I did the ultra. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about the resilience that I have. It taught me that I was super strong, that mentally I'm so much stronger than I thought I was. And I thought I was pretty strong-willed before. But even before I ran the race, I became very aware of the fact that I conditioned myself to not think that anything was hard anymore. And it's the only way that I can sort of like relate it. And this sounds like a stupid example, but it's always in life for me, I was not necessarily like a super lazy person, but I was relatively lazy before. Any tasks in life was like, you cook a meal and the last 10% is like cleaning, washing up, doing the dishes. And like, you don't want to do that. You'd like fill the dishwasher up, but you don't want to take the clean dishes out. And that's like the last bit of the job. You'd like fold all your clothes, but putting them away is the hard thing.
Yes, I know that one well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I became super aware that I stopped thinking that all of the things that were hard in life, the normal day-to-day tasks, no longer fazed me because I was so used to doing hard training, hard things, getting up, like 3 hours sleep, running 7 hours. Like I conditioned myself to the point where there was no saying no. There was no option other than doing it. And all of the small things in my normal life now are not difficult. And it's kind of scary because I'm not scared of anything anymore. And that's quite a weird thing to come to terms with. Like, I'm not scared of conversations that I would be scared of having 3 months ago. I'm not scared of walking into a room and not knowing anyone. So, like, psychologically, I have changed a huge amount. I've always been, you know, I'm an introverted extrovert. I can't remember what the word is for that. But I don't, like, nothing, I don't fear anything now.
You did, and we've come to the end. I'm getting waved at, do you know what I mean? So I'm going to wrap up very quickly, I am.
Wow, that was quick.
But I wanted to say that from the minute you walked in, like, you have changed.
Do you think?
100%, because now maybe it's the first podcast, second podcast, and we actually know each other a lot better.
Yeah,
we
we've spoken in between.
Messaging each other, I was like, hey, are you coming back? Oh, you're like, yeah, I really want to talk about it and stuff like that. So maybe there's a whole different dynamic there, but you looked, I don't know what the word is, like, you look like you've been through the ringer, but like, I don't know, I can't quite put my hand. It's not like you've matured in a way. That's not the right word. But it's like saying that you've got a bit more. There's a different look in your eyes. Like, you've been to a place that not many people have gone to, and you're kind of like, yeah, you can't. No one's going to feel it unless they do it. But you got like a steelier look about you.
I just feel like it just makes you very aware of the fact that no one's going to save you other than yourself. I think that's and also you just have to kind of live life. You know, anything can go any way. You just sort of have to live life and knowing that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You have no control over it. You can only control the controllables, and the rest of it you've just got to leave up to God.
Well, you know, normally I ask people to sum it up in one sentence, but I think you just have. But look, Tatum, thank you so much. Like, I don't think I've ever spoke as less on a podcast.
I'm so sorry.
No, because I just wanted to listen. It's really fascinating. I've really loved it, because to sit this close, you know, to someone that's gone through that, and really the way you spoke about what you went through mentally as well, I think is fascinating. So thank you so much. And when you do the 160...
I'm coming back,
You're
baby.
coming back to tell us so. Look, Tatum, thank you so much.
Thanks
I wish you all the best. And I'm really glad you spoke about it for the first time here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.
Perfect.